Before you buy a home in the current housing market, stop and make sure you understand the common mistakes that you need to avoid as a potential home buyer when making offers in the current housing market. As a real estate agent for nearly 20 years, I come across a lot of buyers looking to make offers on property. And time again, I see home buyers making the same mistakes. So I wanted to take some time and walk you through the common mistakes that these home buyers are making so that not only can you avoid them, but so that you can have a better home buying experience. Now, depending on where you are in the home buying process, some of these things might not even apply to you. So I'm really talking to the people that aren't looky-loos, that aren't wondering whether they should buy now or wait, but those that are actually out there doing it. They're talking to real estate agents. They're maybe thinking about the idea of a pre-approval. They're going to open houses and they're ready to pull the trigger on buying a home. Because a home purchase is likely the most expensive purchase you'll ever make in your life, it's important that you get it right the first time. And because people often buy emotionally and then justify logically, it's really easy to rationalize some of these decisions when you're going through that process and often look back on them wondering, what was I actually thinking? So what I want to do is spend a couple of minutes and talk about these things in order to help you become the educated home buyer. Now, if you're new to me, new to my channel, it's all about real estate education. And if you find any value in that, do me a favor and hit that thumbs up. And if you want to stay updated on information like this, feel free to subscribe to the channel. Emotions run high in the home buying process. And when people decide they want something, especially a certain kind of property, emotions often jump to another level. And one of the mistakes I'm seeing right now in the housing market is buyers fixated and often falling in love with a certain style of property. Because we're all at home, we're watching TV and we're watching HGTV and watching people buy homes, most of these buyers are buying very similar style properties when it comes to the interior condition of them. A lot of LVP flooring, a lot of quartz countertops, some grays, some whites, and often a little contemporary, a little modern on the interior. And because we're watching the same things, we're all falling in love with the same type of style, the same type of property. And when one of these properties comes on the market, guess what? That's what everyone wants, not only because of the style, but because it's already been remodeled to the taste that a lot of us are looking for in this design. And with that often comes competition, overbidding on properties, people fighting, doing crazy things in order to get their offer accepted. All the while, the property that's down the street that needs some work, that needs some paint, that needs some flooring, that needs the kitchen remodel, has no one looking at it. There's no offers. In fact, the days on the market are climbing every day. And while I know a lot of home buyers out there don't necessarily have the additional funds to make a home the particular style that they're looking in, that's why they want to buy it up front, they often get too caught up in that design that they completely overlook that other property, or in most cases actually see the property but have no interest in going and seeing it because it doesn't meet the design that they want. But what most home buyers don't realize is that by maybe buying the property that's not completely fixed up, you're actually getting value in that home versus the one that is fixed up, that's getting multiple offers and often getting bid much above the asking price. So what I ask as a buyer out there in the market, don't overlook the ugly ducklings, if you will, because many times these homes aren't just sitting on the market because there's something wrong with them. They're sitting on the market because there's less demand out there for that type of property, which means if you are a buyer that will consider that type of property, you could be in a much better position, not only to get your offer accepted, but create value in that home as you make the upgrades over time. Now, on that same note, another mistake I see a lot of home buyers out there making in this market is they're sacrificing. They're making sacrifices so that they can buy a home. Now, I realize it's competitive out there. There's not a lot of inventory. Buyer demand seems to creep up right when you want to make an offer on a property. You might see a home sitting on the market for a couple of weeks. You're eyeing it. You finally make the decision to go and get it. And then as soon as you make an offer, there's another offer, or maybe even 2 or 3 offers on that property. And you're like, what just happened? Why is that happening as soon as I want to go see it? And I'm telling you that because I have clients that do that all the time. A home's been sitting for a while. They finally go to see it. We make an offer and guess what? They've got another offer. Our offer doesn't get accepted. It goes pending. And here we are back in the same position. And as that happens, maybe more than one time, home buyers start to wonder, should I sacrifice on what I want in order to get my offer accepted? Now, A moment ago, we mentioned maybe considering some other properties that aren't the perfect turnkey property like you see online. And for some, it could be a sacrifice to accept that other type of property, but I see it more as an opportunity than I do a sacrifice in that case. When I'm talking sacrifices, I'm talking the buyer that meets with me and says, hey Jeb, I'm looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home in this location, this area, this many square feet, whatever it is. And then as we go out and we start looking and realizing it's very, very difficult because there's not a lot of inventory out there, they then come back to me and say, I found this 1-bedroom, this 2-bedroom online that meets what I'm looking for. It's not really in the same location. In fact, it's in a completely different city, but I want to see it. I want to make an offer on it. And what I would tell you is stop and make sure that that's the right decision, that it's not an emotional decision because you're not finding what you want and you're just ready to pull the trigger on buying a home. Because one of my stipulations, if you will, as a home buyer out there in the market is that you should be buying a home if you're in this market that's going to serve your needs for at least the next 5, 7 to 10 years in that home. And that's because we've seen so much appreciation over the last couple of years in real estate that there's a high likelihood that homes don't appreciate like they have in the past and that you see more sideways movement in real estate. Which means if you're someone that's only planning to be in that home for a couple of years, you could possibly end up in a position where you're selling that home and owing money if there's no gain in that appreciation. While I don't believe there's going to be a housing crash, I do believe there's an opportunity for things to slow a little bit over time. Not immediately, but things can't continue at 8, 9% a year every single year. At some point, we got to have that slowdown. So going back to what I was saying, if you plan to be in that property for the next 5, 7 to 10 years, you need to be thinking about your life like that, right? If you're currently single and you're engaged, you know you're going to get married. And if you're planning on having kids, you need to be thinking about kid 1, possibly kid 2. Think about the things that are going to happen over the next 4 to 5 years. Now, you can't plan all of that stuff, and some stuff happens and that was completely unintentional that you never planned for. But I want you to think like that, right? If you're the person that's looking at the 3-bedroom and now you're just giving up and saying, I'm interested in the studio only, but you know you're going to get married, you know you're going to have kids, there's a high likelihood that that property's not going to serve you over that 5, 7 to 10 year period. Now, if you plan on turning that property into a rental and buying something else and you have the means to do it, then that's a little bit different story, but that's not the case for most buyers. And what I see is people sacrificing on the property just to get a property because they've been looking for weeks, months, maybe even years from the pandemic, and they're just not seeing the type of property that they're looking for in the area that they're looking for. So they said, you know what, I'm just giving up. I'm just going to buy this because that's what I can get right now, and I'll deal with buying another home that fits me later. You could end up doing that, but it might end up biting you in the butt, if you will. So I ask as a real estate agent that you don't sacrifice on the things that are important to you in a property. Now, in some cases, you can buy a 2-bedroom house and there's the possibility that you can make it a 3 or 4-bedroom by adding on. And if you have the means to do that, by all means, I completely get it. But another thing I see people sacrificing on is location. And location is the biggest one for me because I know how important location is, not only to where you live your life, but to where you work and what happens on a daily basis. So just make sure when you're looking at property, you're not giving up on the things that are important to you first, just because you're not seeing it in your market. There's always an opportunity to modify some of the things you're looking for, but please don't sacrifice because I promise you it often comes with regret. And another thing that can be said about location is people wanting to be in a certain school district, in a certain city because of family or whatever, and then they just don't find the property and they end up settling inland or end up going somewhere completely unfamiliar to them at the time just to buy property. I've had families move out of Orange County into Riverside, San Bernardino County with the idea that they were going to drive back and forth every day because it wasn't that far of a drive. And they come to hate their lives. They come to hate that drive. Same thing can be said about clients moving out of state, going to Texas, getting to Texas and realizing the grass isn't really greener here. It's not everything I thought it was going to be. In fact, the weather sucks and wanting to move back to California. So the location sacrifice doesn't just happen locally. It can happen when moving out of the area as well. And that's why it's important to start with a list of things that are non-negotiable for you, right? Maybe 3 bedrooms, 2 baths is non-negotiable. You can't settle for any less than 3 bedrooms. Or maybe you have to be in a certain school district, or you have to be here because of the commute to work. You're not willing to go any further than that, therefore it's here. Start with those and try to find property that meets that criteria. And if you can't, then that's okay. You just continue doing what you're doing until the right property presents itself. Now, there's a chance that it doesn't present itself, and at some point you have to make changes. But what I don't like to see is people make emotional changes through the process just because they're getting flustered and impatient with the process. And one of the last things I want to talk about in today's video, in order to kind of keep this timely and moving on, is people not being ready in the current environment. Understand inventory is low. Buyer demand, while it's low, it's still in lockstep with inventory. So that means if a property is priced correctly, and typically speaking, if it's under the median home price or near the median home price here in Orange County, I would say under 1.5 million, chances are it's going to be a competitive market. And if you're a serious home buyer out there in the market, you need to be ready. I'm often talking to buyers that haven't even been pre-approved yet. They haven't even gone through the process, but yet they claim they're ready to buy a home, or they've seen something online that they want to go see, but they haven't taken the first steps. And understand, it's a competitive environment out there. You need to have your ducks in a row, if you will, because oftentimes these sellers already have an offer and they already have a deadline on when offers need to be presented and when they're going to make a decision. And if you're not ready and you're planning to go see a house over the weekend and they're accepting offers on Sunday, chances are you don't have enough time to have that conversation with your lender to get all the documentation to them so that they can actually pre-approve you and give your real estate agent what is needed in order to submit that offer. So if you're planning on buying a home anytime in 2024, I would say the sooner you have that conversation with a mortgage lender, the better off you're going to be. Because I truly believe you can never start the process too early. The worst thing that can happen is you start the process and you're ready to go. You're fully pre-approved and they say, you're good to go. But on the other hand, you can start the process and they can say, well, your credit could use some work, or you need to do this in order to set yourself in a better position, or maybe you only qualify for this, and by doing this, it would give you more buying power. So it could come as an opportunity for you to work on some stuff to put yourself in a better position down the road. But even if you are pre-approved, I would say you've got to be ready in this market. I see a lot of buyers that have been through the pre-approval process and they hear the market's competitive and they hear things are crazy, but when they go to make an offer, they're not competitive. They're not trying to be aggressive. And that's okay to start with because they're just trying to get a feel for the market. But when it happens time and time again, that ends up being a mistake. In fact, I saw a lot of people do it in 2020, in 2021, when the market was crazy. And they said, I'm just going to wait. I'm going to wait for things to slow down, wait for it to change, and then I'll come in and make an offer. Understand, a lot of those people aren't home buyers today, and not only have they missed the opportunity to buy a house, they've missed appreciation, they've missed an opportunity to pay down that mortgage, all the while they've been renting and paying someone else's mortgage. Now, ultimately, you have to decide what's right for you, but I would say in this market, you need to be ready. Once you're starting the process, you need to be ready to go so that when the right property presents itself, you're ready to make an offer. And with that, you need a professional, someone to guide you through that process. And that's really the last mistake I see people making right now, is that they're just working with anyone. The person they meet in an open house, or somebody they just found online. They have no idea who they are, how much knowledge they have, or maybe it's their cousin that just got their license and they have no experience out there working in a normal real estate market, much less a crazy real estate market. In this environment, you need to make sure you're working with a professional, someone that can explain the market to you, explain why things are the way they are, and really help guide you through the process. Because if not, there's going to be a really good chance that you're going to be sitting on the sidelines and not actually buying a house. You're going to be doing a lot of looking with very little success unless you have a professional to guide you. Now, if you're here local to Orange County, I would love the opportunity to be that person for you. Now, I realize this is self-serving in many ways, but I've been doing this for 20 years and I have the knowledge and expertise to guide you through the process. Now, if you're outside Orange County and you're looking for someone to guide you through that process, I created a referral link below that you can go to, where I'm happy to refer you to somebody I know, like, and trust. But if you're going to be a home buyer in this market, it's important that you avoid these mistakes. Control the controllables so that you can ultimately put yourself in the best position possible. But if you're watching this wondering what you can do to help your offer stand out once you find the right property, do me a favor and check out this video here.